Good Wednesday evening. Welcome back to Let's Talk Live here on the LTL Media Channel. And my friends, I'm at a loss for words. I don't think I have the words to say or speak what happened inside that courtroom today. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to get to the level that we heard and saw today. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch all of the testimony, but I saw about 2 hours of it this morning, and we'll go through some of it tonight. But the egregious attacks that Trooper Michael Proctor did to Karen Reed is utmost just subhuman. I don't have the words for it. I was choked up listening to that testimony. I was at a loss. My mouth was wide open listening to what we heard today in that courtroom, the disgusting things. And I don't want to repeat any of them. I'll let Michael Proctor speak for himself because that's who Michael Proctor is. And the scary thing about it is this, my friends. Not only has this happened in Karen Reed's case, but can you imagine the way that he talked about previous potential suspects or witnesses or people that he may have conversated with throughout his career? This is how this guy talks. He's a very, very disgusting human being. And what I did before, about 10 minutes before I came on the show, with the help of ChatGPT to kind of clean up a little bit of what I had to say, but I penned an open letter to Trooper Michael Proctor and the Massachusetts State Police, and I'm going to pull that up and we'll read it before we get into the testimony. So my open letter to Trooper Michael Proctor and the Massachusetts State Police, and I'll read it to you, my friends. Today, I stand before you with a heavy heart, burdened by the weight of injustice and misconduct within our law enforcement community. It has come to our attention that Trooper Michael Proctor, entrusted with upholding the law and protecting our citizens, has betrayed that trust in the most egregious manner. His recent actions made public while testifying marked by personal attacks against Karen Reed and the alleged framing of her while investigating the death of Officer John O'Keefe are not only irreprehensible, but also a stain on the integrity of the entire justice system. It is unacceptable for a sworn officer to serve and protect, engage in such unprofessional behavior, tarnishing the reputation of our law enforcement agencies. Trooper Proctor's words and actions have not only caused harm to an innocent individual, Karen Reed, but have also eroded the trust and confidence that the public places in our police force. As members of this community, we cannot turn a blind eye in such misconduct. Therefore, I call upon Trooper Michael Proctor to do the honorable thing and resign from his position immediately. His continued presence in our law enforcement ranks undermines the very principles of justice and fairness that we hold dear. We cannot allow individuals who abuse their power and engage in personal vendettas to remain in positions of authority. If he does not resign, I'm calling upon the Massachusetts State Police Department to fire him immediately. Furthermore, I urge our law enforcement agency to conduct a thorough and transparent investigation into Trooper Michael Proctor's accountability, into Trooper Michael Proctor. Accountability must be maintained. He must be held responsible for his misconduct, being held to the utmost standards of integrity. In closing, let us reaffirm our commitment to justice, integrity, and the rule of law. Together, we must strive to create the community where every individual is treated with dignity and respect, and where those are sworn to protect, to serve you with honor and integrity. I said, thank you, Brian, LTL Media. So that was my open letter. I have no words. And you're going to hear the words. You will hear them in some of this playback tonight. And again, I won't get to all of it we'll skip through and listen to some certain parts. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for people to hear, to listen back to the vile crap that Trooper Michael Proctor was engaging with, not only with friends, but with superiors, his superiors in that department. And I call upon all of those people that were involved in these text messages on the Massachusetts State Police to be investigated as well. Possibly fired, because they have the power to control this. They have the power to stop it, and they let it go. They let it continue. But we'll get that up and we'll play through that. My friends, as always, this is a Karen Read stream. So what I would like to do is 25% of all donations tonight will get kicked back to Karen Read's Defense Fund. And we will go through some of this testimony. And here we go.
Good morning, Trooper.
Yes, sir.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, as a matter of housekeeping, I would move to admit the packet.
Actually, I'm going to speed this up. There's a lot of housekeeping here. Let's bring Jackson up on the podium. Maz Media checking in. Says, go Karen Read, go Celtics. Maz will be joining me tomorrow night with Jess Machado, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are really, really ready for that show. I think we have a lot to talk about, but let's get into this testimony.
Yes. Trooper Proctor, you never thought when you were engaged with these other 8 individuals that this particular set of chats would ever become public, did you?
No, I did not.
I want to take a look at page 2527. If you could turn, that's on the bottom right of the document in tab 2. Do you recognize, I'm sorry, do you have that page in front of you?
Yes, sir.
You recognize that this chat, this group chat was taking place on January 29th at about 10:52 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And the person...
Best quote of the day, Alan Jackson, walking away, looked at Trooper Proctor and said, shame on you, sir. And I'll tell you, this guy is so shameful, he couldn't even look up at Jackson through probably 80% of the day today. And he knew right when we got into these text messages, you could tell he wanted to crawl under that chair, and he should have crawled under that chair. He's a disgusting human being, what he said. And can you imagine what his female coworkers feel like when they see him now, that he's going to be allowed to continue with his employment on the Massachusetts State Police? I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be pulled over by this guy or talked to by this guy now, knowing how he talks and engages in conversations, private information about people that he's putting out there, making determinations, investigations, 16 hours into an investigation. You haven't even been to the fucking scene yet. You talk to 3 people. You talk to 3 McAlberts and make your determination already, and you've already set it up that you're going to blame Karen Read for this. You're a disgusting individual because you want to protect one of your own. You should have been protecting one of your own. Officer John O'Keefe, you should have been finding out what fucking went on in that house. But you're going to sit here and blame who you think is the weakest one. And I'll tell you, she got you. She showed you, and you got every single goddamn thing on that stand today. And I hope that the stigma of this follows you for the rest of your life. That you will be known by the things that you said on that stand today, sir. And I hope you're watching. Because you've disgraced everyone. You've disgraced everyone in the Mass State Police Department. You've disgraced the citizens of Massachusetts. You have hurt our communities. And you especially hurt one innocent woman that is sitting in that courtroom right now fighting for her life on something that you involved her in that she had nothing to do with. And that's one Karen Read. All right, my friends, let's get into this.
That I'll identify as 5051. That's the last 4 digits of that phone number. Indicates Chip, name of that BPD cop, correct?
Correct.
First of all, you indicated on Monday that you're Chip. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You responded at 10:53 p.m., John O'Keefe. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you were willing to tell just a few hours into an investigation of the death of a Boston police officer, you were willing to tell a bunch of high school buddies details about the investigation, including the name of the victim, correct?
At this point, it's 16 hours later, sir. Not a few.
16 is a few hours, correct? I'm not talking about
I
days
hope
later.
so, Scott.
It was about 16 hours later, sir.
Correct. And you identified John O'Keefe as the Boston police officer who was fallen in the yard at 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
You also informed, if you will skip to page 2529, you also informed these same folks, these same high school buddies that, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP, correct?
Yes.
You knew, Trooper Proctor, that there was brass that wanted this case wrapped up quickly and efficient. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Oh, well, is that what you were thinking?
No, the people wanted answers, sir.
They wanted it. They didn't just want answers. They wanted answers ASAP. What does ASAP mean?
That's as soon as possible.
Right. And you were texting this to your high school friends, again, 16 hours into this investigation, right?
Correct.
And you knew at that time, Trooper Proctor, that this was not going to implicate in any way, shape, form, or fashion another cop, correct?
Correct.
In this text exchange, let's turn to 2532, actually. You have that in front of you?
I do.
In this text exchange at 10:56 p.m., your buddy Bird writes, I'm sure the owners of the house will receive some shit, correct?
Correct.
How did you take that to mean? Did you take that to mean that he could get in trouble?
Sure did.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what my friend was getting at.
Well, you had some idea.
Yeah,
That the owners of the house isn't going to get any shit for this, right?
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you interpreted it like he's not going to get in any trouble. He's not going to be a suspect, correct?
Correct.
And he's not going to be implicated in any way. Is that right?
Correct.
And your answer was one word, correct?
Yes.
What was that word?
Nope.
And then you followed that up with an explanation as to why you said no, didn't you?
That wasn't the explanation why I said nope. I simply said homeowner's a Boston cop too, meaning Mr. O'Keefe was a Boston cop. The homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
The question that preceded your answer, nope, the homeowner's a Boston cop too, was the homeowner's going to get some shit for this, correct?
That's not what I meant with that text.
That's what you wrote.
Not what I meant, sir.
All right, let's take it in order. Question. Oh goodness, the Boston cop, I'm
I
sorry.
gotta commend Karen Reed today for keeping her head up high while all those embarrassing text messages and all that vile crap was being spit in that courtroom. And she held her head up high and didn't waver once. And I have to commend her for that because she went through the utmost embarrassment today for the world to see, and having to be on that stage and those things that came out about you, the things, those evil, vile things that were said about you. I'm going to sneeze. Hang on. I commend her that she stood tall, kept her chin in the air, looking right at him the whole time, and faced him down. And it must have felt so satisfying to her that she had him in that position today for everything that he did to frame her in this case, to make the determination within 16 hours that the gig was up and Karen Reed was going to be the person that he was going to pin this on, and he was going to make that happen. And I put out a message today on Twitter and on my Facebook, and I said, hold your head up high today, Karen Reed. And she did. Steve, checking in, $10 super chat. We already had the 5 on Cash App, and like traditional goes, 25% will get kicked back to Karen Reed's defense fund. I like to at least try to get to $50 for Karen Reed so we can make that happen tonight. I would thoroughly love that. She needs our help more than anything now. Says Mass State Police will try to spin this after the trial. I can't wait to hear them tell us on how they had no idea this was happening and they are in shock and horror after learning about Proctor's action. Probably, most likely. Yeah, you're right, Steve. I get it, because that's what they always do. They do things like that. All right, let's
The
get into
homeowner's
it.
going to get some shit for this. Answer, nope. Next text, he's a Boston cop too. That doesn't sound like an explanation for your nope.
No, that's just saying he's a Boston cop as well. Mr. O'Keefe is a
And that's
Boston cop.
why he's not going to get any shit. Correct, Trooper Proctor?
Well, he's not going to receive any shit, sir, because Mr. Albert, the homeowner, had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
And you knew this 16 hours into your investigation.
Yes.
Less than a day.
Yes.
To your satisfaction.
To my satisfaction
And
and
you
to the
hadn't
members
been
of my
to the
unit.
crime scene?
So let
And didn't he previously testify that he didn't know? I think he said it was longer than 16 hours that it was a Boston police officer that had been in the situation that he was. Didn't he say that he didn't know for long? It was like longer in part of the day. I could have swore that he said that in testimony, and I'm surprised that Jackson didn't bring that up. Because I want to say he said, "Oh, I didn't even know who it was until way later in the day."
him finish. We didn't get the finish
Some-
your answer.
To my satisfaction and to all the members of my unit who investigated that day.
Objection. Calls for speculation.
So I'm going to let it stand. Trooper Proctor, you have to keep your voice up, okay? Jurors need to hear you way back there.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact of the matter is, you hadn't been to the crime scene by the time you wrote this text, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't been inside the home, correct?
No.
You had investigated, you had questioned a grand total of 3 percipient witnesses at this point, correct?
Yes.
And 2 of the 3 were named McCabe, right?
Correct.
And 1 of the 3
Which is a lie because Yuri was in those text messages.
was named Albert, correct?
Yes.
And it's against that backdrop that you wrote, nope, the homeowner's not going to get any shit because he's a cop, right?
That's not what I meant by that.
At 10:57, Bird goes on to write, he, the homeowner, must have been a puddle to accomplish that. And then he writes, who's the homeowner? Then he writes, I hope not, but I can see it, correct?
Yes.
A puddle means drunk, correct?
That's a term for it, yes.
In other words, Bird wrote that the homeowner must have been so drunk, so wasted.
Real quick, we just had a $50 Cash App come through from Kirsten. Kirsten, thank you so much. Kirsten says, I'm just as outraged today. Support from Denton, Texas. Thank you so much. And we'll add that to the total. And we want to get up to that 50 for Karen. So 25% of your donation will get back to Karen. Thank you.
To have killed him, correct?
Objection.
Do you know what that means? Do you know what that text means?
Just the puddle part, Your Honor. That term.
All right, so he can answer that.
And the puddle part means drunk or wasted, right?
Yes.
And what Bird actually wrote was, he must have been a puddle to accomplish that, correct?
That's what he wrote.
And then you write back, quote, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital, right?
Correct.
You used the phrase waffled about a Boston police officer who had fallen in the snow and died in someone's yard. And you decided to use the word waffled him, correct?
Objection.
So sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Did you answer, she waffled him, I looked at his body at the hospital?
I did answer that, yes.
And then Bird questioned, she waffled him, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, he was banged up. Is that right?
Yes.
Then a person with the phone number 0095 wrote, I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up? You see that?
I do.
And you wrote, nope. Is that right?
Correct.
Yet again, This is before 11 o'clock at night on January 29th, 2022, some 16 hours into your investigation. Is that right?
Yes.
So before you ever went to the crime scene,
Yeah, and I want to let you know about this. This just came out today too, and I just saw this. Brian Walsh's attorney is now filing a motion in response to Trooper Proctor's conduct in the Karen Reed case. I don't know if you saw that. That fucking guy is going to end up walking. I mean, he killed his wife, and now see all the fallout this has caused. So this guy probably just screwed that whole investigation up. But we're going to have to see the fallout from this. This is going to create a lot of fallout because of all the cases that this guy has been involved in. And, you know, if I was every lawyer in town now, I'd go, all right, well, what did he say about my client? I mean, this has huge, what's the word I'm looking at? Inclinations in all the cases that he's currently involved in and all the past cases. I mean, it's unbelievable.
before you ever went into the house, only having interviewed 3 folks, you had this case nice and wrapped up, didn't you?
Yes, based on the evidence.
Linda, thank you for the 15 on Cash App. She said, so proud of Karen. Brian, thank you for all you do. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate the 15. We'll add that to the total.
My office uncovered that day the one shoot discovered at the scene, the one shoot at the hospital, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, the broken taillight pieces underneath the snow.
Super Proctor, I didn't ask for an explanation. I asked, did you, in your mind, have this case wrapped up? Was it cut and dry in your mind?
Yes.
Bird then writes, so the owner of the house was a woman. Sorry, was a woman cop that beat him, question mark, right?
Yes.
And then you wrote, that's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you said, then I saw the guy, correct?
Correct.
So what you meant by that, Trooper Proctor, was according to you, based on your conversations, your initial conversations with the paramedics, the first responders, you were under the impression that this was a beating death. He'd been beaten to death, correct?
The way it was given to me, sir, was
That's yes
a
or no?
medical.
That's yes
No,
or no?
he's going to answer the question. If you want
Go
to
ahead.
withdraw the question, you can.
No, go ahead.
We entered this investigation with an open mind. It was given to me as a medical situation. And when we saw Mr. O'Keefe's body at the hospital with Sergeant Buchanan and I, we saw his injuries and we were kind of working through how these injuries occurred.
As a
Looks like
matter
he
of
bent
fact,
his leg.
both you and Sergeant Buchanan believed that he had suffered the injuries as a result of a physical altercation based on information you received from the paramedics initially, correct?
Walk back, sir.
Initially, we didn't know what we had. We knew there was some significant injuries to Mr. O'Keefe. And we're still figuring out how those injuries occurred.
Well, you just testified. Initially, we didn't know what we had.
Right.
But 16 hours after the fact, you wrote the following sentence. That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics, correct?
Correct.
So initially, you did think you knew what you had, a physical
And
altercation.
then after talking to Jennifer McCabe and co, that's when he started to formulate all this. Because he didn't go to the scene. He didn't investigate anything. He didn't go knock on anybody's door. It was all after he started to talk to Jen and co. And they started covering everything up. And I asked the question today. I asked KC today. I said, Jesus Christ, how the hell did he know about Karen Reed's medical history? And the only determination that KC and I could come back and forth is during the conversation, probably with Jen McCabe, she started talking about all that stuff to Proctor. That's the only way that I could come up with it. And that's pretty disgusting that they were discussing that during their interview.
Leading to a death, correct?
Correct.
So when you just said, initially we didn't know what we had, that wasn't quite true. You did at least have an idea of what you thought you had, correct?
Sustained.
All right. You were aware
That's true too.
initially.
That's true too, Casey. He went through her phone, so he might have seen conversations back and forth with her and John. That's very true. Yeah, because I was trying to think, like, how did he know all that? Because Jackson even asked him, did you know about her medical history? He said no. So I said the only determination that I could come up with was that Jennifer McCabe was talking a bunch of trash about her in that interview. And then probably because Jen McCabe was the fucking ringleader of this whole cover up. I mean, we went through it, my friends. If you went through the live that I had about a week ago, and we literally systematically went through that timeline in the Justice Group, and we added all the video to it and all her testimony and all of the other testimony in that, she was the absolute conductor of this cover up. After she talked to Proctor, it was just running with her, and they didn't know anything up into 227. The catalyst for it was that day at 5 o'clock in the morning ish was when Karen had that first conversation with Jen and said, look, I don't know where John is. I've backed up. I've cracked my tail and my tail light is cracked. Boom. That was the catalyst. And she knew that inside of her head. And that's what she was going to roll with when this all came to conclusion, because they knew what happened to John that night inside the house, and she needed a cover up. So she was the ringleader in getting that all together. And then she was like, the minute that she heard about Karen saying, I cracked my tail light, that was it. That was the catalyst. And she said, that's what we're going to roll with. And she started looping everybody in. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And knowing the relationship with Proctor and knowing the relationship with all the other people that are involved, when she sat down with Proctor, this is what we're going to do. She told me X. Bang, bang, bang. And they started lining it all up. That's how it unfolded.
That John O'Keefe had suffered a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
That resulted in a skull fracture, correct?
Correct.
He had a laceration over his right eye, small laceration just under the eyebrow, correct?
Yes.
Man,
Had a laceration on his nose. Is that right?
Correct.
He had patterned scratches on his right arm, abrasions, scratches, correct?
Yes.
And he had no injuries below the neck.
Not that I observed, sir.
Not a single broken bone, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single fracture, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single bruise below the neck, right?
Not that I observed.
Looks a lot like a physical altercation, doesn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Who knows? We're going
Bird
to
rights.
shame on you, sir.
Bear,
we won't
let's
even
focus,
look at that.
correct?
Yes.
Who's Bear?
That's another nickname I have.
0095 writes, what does she waffled him mean? And then Bird writes, what's the story, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, she hit him with her car. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, in your experience, have you ever seen a pedestrian who's hit by a 6,000-pound car with no bruises? Ever?
You didn't. No. The answer's no.
The pedestrian strikes I've seen have been at high speeds,
And that's
60
enough
plus.
a person out of a shoe, right?
60 plus miles per hour. So I can't recall right now off the top of my head as far as injuries in the past pedestrian strikes I've attended.
Okay. So someone, you indicated on Monday, under examination by Mr. Lally, you've seen a shoe missing,
Correct.
pedestrian strikes, correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as the miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
So, Proctor, let me ask you the question again. Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever, in your experience, seen a vehicle pedestrian incident in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Next question.
I mean, you and
After
everybody
you
else
wrote,
in here.
she hit him with her car, 5051 writes, oh, Jesus, And Bird writes, okay, that's fucked up, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
0095 then chimes in, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark.
Frozen in the
Correct?
driveway.
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove, correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted you would have zero proof of, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that statement that this was one of several things that you knew we would not be able to prove?
That statement, that's another animal we won't be able to prove, references the intentional or not part.
You didn't care at that point when you wrote that, you didn't care what you could or could not prove, did you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Isn't that what you meant?
No.
You had a narrative that you had developed and you would pursue it no matter what the proof was. That's what you meant by that statement, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that, thank you, Your Honor, I didn't mean to step on your words. Did you mean by that statement that you were going to pursue this case no matter what the proof might be?
What I meant by that statement was if Miss Reed backed into Mr. O'Keefe intentionally or not.
Interestingly, though, that statement came on the heels of he was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him. And you wrote in response to that question, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
That's not what I was responding to. I was responding to the intentional or not part.
So you were responding to your own statement.
Correct.
Okay.
Sure.
0095 then writes, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved. Correct?
Yes.
In other words, that person was asking, tell me the name of the homeowner. Isn't that right?
Yes.
The guy that's the cop, right?
Correct.
And you ignored that question for a second time. Is that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, not one time, not once in this entire group chat did you disclose the name Brian Albert, did you?
I don't believe so, no.
You were actively trying to
Colin
hide
Albert.
Brian Albert's name, at least from this conversation.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were trying to do?
Absolutely not.
But you had no problem sharing John O'Keefe's name with your buddies from high school, right?
Correct.
And you had no problem sharing Karen Reed's name with your buddies from high school, correct?
Let me ask the chat a question. We got like 830 people in here. Okay. And I'm probably going to say, yeah, maybe 90 to 95% of you all in here are pro Karen Reed. But I think for the 5%ers out there, or maybe some people that are pro Karen Reed now, when you first started following this case, I want just please, it just takes one person, and we're not going to pick on you. I just want to see if you went into this case blind and just heard, maybe a couple of weeks before in the media what was going on this case, and you looked at it and went, oh God, Karen Reed is guilty. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But now that you've watched the trial, has your mind changed, and have you flipped to the other side of Karen Reed is completely innocent? I would love to hear that. I think Grace is speaking up. Grace said, I did. It's great that that you are seeing this for what it is. Anthony has changed. Trish, I love the honest people here. Scott says, I was pro Karen Reed since April of 2023. I don't think there's any doubt about that. A lot of people, yes, look at this. I love the honest people. A week in my mind, I flipped. Double says, I thought it was a drunk accident, but has changed. Darcy says, I knew she didn't do it. I came in not knowing anything. I vote not guilty. Let's see. Fully agree she's innocent now. Okay, so some minds have changed. Donna says, when I first heard about it, I thought what she said was the truth, but since TV broke the story, I think she's not guilty. I love all the honesty here. That's awesome. Let's see. Meme says, I knew nothing, went into this blind, not guilty. Awesome. So I love that. That's cool that we could do that exercise, and everybody was honest. KC says, when I saw the autopsy photos, and it was done for me, not guilty. And then let's see. Kat says, I came in, she was innocent from the beginning. When I first heard it, it sounded corrupt right from the start to me. The same thing for me. When I read through that initial affidavit, I went, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right here. So Scott says, I guess there's a lot of newbies to this case, but that's awesome. Yeah, it is awesome. And I'm glad that you're allowing us to come here on these channels and all the wonderful creators that cover this case, and you get educated by this. Darcy says it looked like he had been beating, not in a car accident. Thank you. Team Turtle. Yes, absolutely. Team Turtle. All right, let's keep going here.
I don't believe I named the defendant.
Not yet, you didn't.
Let's do this real quick. Grace, I love the follow-up. She says, she's not guilty in a legal sense, hands down. I personally believe she's innocent. I have autoimmune issues like she does, and my belly is always acting up. I went in blind. Cover-up is undeniable now. Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. So for Angela, it was the autopsy photos plus the 2:30 a.m. Hoslong to die. Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Later
let's go.
in the chat.
Okay, correct.
5051 then writes, the BPD have any jurisdiction here because it was their own? Question mark. Is that right?
Yes.
And a few texts later, if you look down a few texts, at about 11 o'clock, you see a text that starts nah, cat.
Anna, thank you.
I do, sir, yes.
You responded, quote, nah, N-A-H, nah, cat, K-A-T-T. It's the total opposite. They have to recuse themselves. Same with Canton, correct?
Wow, Seth, look at this.
That text ends as they have to recuse themselves.
You then text back, I'm sorry, can I have a moment?
Yeah.
Flip to that page.
I see where you're at, sir.
How did you end that text?
Same with Canton.
Meaning Canton has to recuse itself also, correct?
That was my understanding.
So by 11 p.m. on January 29th, 2022, there was no question in your mind, Trooper Proctor, that the Canton Police Department was recused from this investigation in all particulars, correct?
That they had taken a step back from participating, yes.
Right. Well, there's one way to put it. They've taken a step back from participating. Another way to put it is they recused themselves completely, correct?
Correct.
They were not going to be, at least in your mind, they were not to be involved in any way, just like Boston PD was not to be involved in any way. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that what you were thinking?
It was my understanding they were not going to be involved.
Now, if we could turn to page 2537. (5051) writes, but I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops.
Wow.
Correct?
Yes.
What a statement.
And Berg writes, something stinks. Correct?
Correct.
Wow.
And then Trooper Proctor, you responded, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
That's right.
So in that text exchange, you were saying, yeah, we're out to make it cut and dry. Correct?
No.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to follow the evidence wherever it takes us. You didn't, did you?
Oh, you're welcome.
I did not write that.
You didn't write, yeah,
Listen.
we're going to make.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But let's give it to the man that broke it wide open. And that is one Aiden Turtleboy Carney. One Aiden Turtleboy Carney. Yes, I did my first lives about this case in September. My algorithm kind of took me to him talking about this case. I've built a relationship and a friendship with him. I've had him on the show. I've done multiple shows on his channel. But he is the man that has broke this wide open. And if it wasn't for him, this case would be a lot different, I think. It would be a lot different. It wasn't for all of you. I mean, I said the other day when I had the opportunity to sit in court with Karen's team and had that little meeting time with Karen's team and Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson looked at me and said, I appreciate every single thing that you and all the other fellow people have done to help Karen Reed and support her. And if it was not for that support around the world, this case would be absolutely different. And I completely agree. Completely agree. Kat, thank you for the $19.99. We'll round it up to 20. We'll add that into the total tonight. And 25% of the total through Cash Apps, Venmos, PayPals, Super Chats, that'll all, 25% of that will get kicked back to Karen Reed. I like to get to at least $50 by the end of the stream for Karen. So we're at 100 total, 25% of that will be kicked back. All right, let's keep playing.
Make sure that we investigate this thing fully and thoroughly before making any decisions. You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
You wrote, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And the reason you wrote that is because you knew, as the text above it says, this has to be cut and dry because it involves cops, right?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that the reason you wrote it?
No, Your Honor.
And then you indicated we're going to put serious charges on the girl. Who did you mean by the girl, by the way?
The defendant.
Karen Reed?
Yes, sir.
So the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not. Follow
Wow,
the facts and the evidence from that day on the 29th. Everything led to Miss Reed hitting Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
But that wasn't the question that you were answering, was it? We're going to follow the evidence and make sure we do this thoroughly. The question you were answering was, I assume you guys, you, Trooper Proctor, and your team are going to, quote, make it cut and dry since it involves cops, meaning Brian Albert, correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we?
Oh, she knows it's coming.
5051, a little further down, says, gotta be. I could only imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Wow. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to.
The funny thing about all of this is, a while back when I first started doing some research on this case and talking about it, I had a couple of live streamers that I used to kind of stream with in my circle, and they called me crazy for covering this case and standing beside Karen Reed. And they took shots at Turtle Boy. They took shots at me. They tried to recreate the Commonwealth's theory of what Karen Reed did using a fucking tackle dummy. They called me an idiot. They would shame me and slam me on their lives. And they said there's no way that cops would be involved in this cover up. There's no way that multiple people would be involved in this. You are crazy. Your channel will go nowhere. You're dumb. They put every label that they could on me. How's that working out for you? Because one, all this brilliant work that we've collectively done here in these chats, pushing me harder to go out and stand with the Free Karen Reed supporters, getting fully behind Karen Reed, raising money for Karen Reed's defense, being able to have that opportunity to sit in court and see this trial live while you've sat home and played around on your channel, and your channel hasn't got much traction, and you have 100 people maximum watching you at live, during your lives at night. I was the guy that was not supposed to go anywhere. I was the guy that my channel was going to fail. I was the idiot. Where are you now? One of them hasn't streamed in 3 months, and the other one puts people to sleep with her 100 viewers that watch her every night. And she took shots at me and copied my material. She would come to my live streams and watch what I was doing, translate it, and bring it over into her chats and her lives, and act like she was coming up with this creative material. She took a police report, screenshots of a police report that I got in the Chelsea Grimm case that I had to painstakingly do a FOIA request on that. And I exposed the whole investigation to the public. I was the first person to put the full, damn it, I just lost the word. Son of a bitch. The full file online for the world to see. It was a missing girl, Chelsea Grimm, that went missing from San Diego, California, driving out back to Connecticut. And she ended up going missing in Arizona. And I dive deep into that case. I seeked out a lot of people that knew Chelsea. I had friends of hers on my show. I had a brilliant investigator, Steve Fisher from SF Investigates, came on my show twice and spoke with us about his investigation. He was hired once by the family, and she copied my material, flat out copied my material, took fucking screenshots of the reports that I put out there and brought them over to her live and lied to her audience and said she FOIA'd the documents. That was a lie. That was a lie. So, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but where are you now? So, anyway, Lady Law, thank you for becoming a new member, and thank you for being a moderator. All right, let's play.
To answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn, correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears. And he writes, she hot at least, correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts,
Well, everybody know right now that we're gonna get a little. I gotta do something here real quick. Goodbye. All right. Language. I'm gonna get some heavy language here. Here we go.
he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation,
Yes.
into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
But sir, you didn't have all accounts, did you?
What I meant by that was
Did you or did you not have all accounts in your investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
And then
you
some.
had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor, were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who happened to be the homeowner and a Boston cop. Those are the accounts from percipient witnesses that you had, correct?
By the way, Celtics 64, Mavs 59. And right now it's in the third quarter, 8:44 to go.
There was another additional witness that we had investigators had interviewed, Miss Roberts as well.
And from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours into the investigation, correct?
Yes,
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job cunt, right?
yes.
What else did you say in response to she's hot at least? Or she hot at least, question mark.
So following that text, I responded, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, she's a babe. Who's the she?
Miss Reed.
Weird Fall River accent, though. You talking about her, the way she talks?
The accent.
And no ass. Now you're talking about her body, her physique, correct?
Yes,
You think that's appropriate?
absolutely not.
Then Bird chimes in with a little comedy. Not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, she didn't have an ass. Nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then 5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
My response was zero chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
She's fucked.
Zero
Yeah.
chance she skates. She's fucked, right?
Correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. You can, the content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? Put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
What did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks, and a debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office who went through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
What you meant by that comment, Trooper Proctor, was you were going to make sure, because 5051 had said she's going to skate. She's skating. When you said zero chance she skates, she's fucked. What you meant was, I'm going to make sure, I am going to make sure Ms. Reed doesn't skate. She's fucked. That's what you meant, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then Bird decides to chime in. Good, no ass bitch, right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good, no ass bitch?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you?
I wonder how I wonder how the attorneys prepare the family for this. I mean, listen, we're all adults. I get it. This is vile conversation, but I'm sure that he has conversations with the family, how they're going to go at this and attack it, things that they're going to have to hear about their daughter, about their sister, cousin, whatever it may be, friend, confidant. But I wonder if they, they approach the family and just let them know you're going to hear some stuff that's pretty vile. And then Karen having to explain that to her family. It's just very embarrassing. I couldn't even imagine going through that. I mean, this is for the world to hear. This is not just like in the courtroom. Everybody's hearing this. And to have this person say those things about your daughter in front of you, I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Reed are some of the sweetest people I've ever met. Very, very kind and very nice. And having to listen to that is just beyond me. It's beyond me. And this isn't even this is just tipping the iceberg what we're getting into.
Trooper Proctor, thought that was funny?
It was unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking
Yep.
you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my
Hey,
response
Brandy,
at
how
the
are you?
time,
I gotta
apparently,
have you on the show sometime, Brandy. How about you and I do a live sometime? I know you do a lot of work on the Karen Reed case. Reach out to me. Let's do a show. I'd like to get you on the panel sometime and see your thoughts on all of this from from a women's perspective. And I think that's what's going to be great about tomorrow night's show is that I'm going to have Jess Machado on the show, and she's going to be able to tell, we see the women chatting in here, but Jess is going to be the first voice that I have is coming from a woman's point of view about what Trooper Proctor said on that stand today. And I'm very excited to hear what Jess has to say about that. I'll be very excited to hear what she has to say. So, Brandy, we got to do a show sometime. I know you've been over on Melanie. Reach out to me on Twitter. Let's do something. I'd love to get you on the panel up here. Let's have a convo about what's been going on in this courtroom. All right, let's keep playing here.
Then you sent a picture just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct?
I don't.
Real quick, I'm just going to do this. Let's see. Carla, thank you so much for the 25 on Cash App. She said for 83-year-old lifetime law enforcement, Pop said corruption for sure. Her father is an 83, what'd she say? 83-year-old law enforcement officer. Her pop said corruption for sure. Corruption for sure. Wow. Thank you. We're going to add that to the total. 25% of the total tonight will get kicked back to Karen Reed's defense fund. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Let's go. It's gonna get worse here, people. I know we're adults, but I just want to warn anybody if you haven't heard it yet. Here we go.
Not sure if that came from me, sir.
Let's skip to 2543. Are you there, Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. A person by the name of Doc writes,
John, thanks for becoming
is
a new
that
member.
chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Brandy, I'll do this. I'll give you the opportunity. You're in the chat right now. If you're ready in your studio or your setup and you want to jump on, you let me know. I'll drop the link for you. You can come up and give us your perspective. It'd be great just to meet you. But again, if you want to jump up really quick, I'll drop the link on, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. If you're not, no problem. We'll schedule something. I'll have you come over and we can hang out. Okay, let's keep going, my friends.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's
Brandy,
Chief?
thanks for the 5.
A friend of mine.
Oh, sure. I'd love to have you on.
And then
Brandy,
you
I'll drop
write
the link for you.
what?
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Trooper Proctor, explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
Your essentially, I guess, your rectum area.
Your anus?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Their parents.
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked. That's how you.
John, thank you for the 5 donations. We'll add that. That's 25 to the total. And we'll kick back 25% back to Karen Reed's Defense Fund tonight. And we're going to have Brandy jump up here in a minute. Take your time. No rush. We'll get you popped up. And I'd love to hear your perspective on all of this. Hey, there she is. Let me pull her in here. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hang on one second. I just screwed all this. I screwed all this up. I just lost it. Here we go. Welcome to LTL Live. Appreciate you jumping on. I've never met you. I've seen you over on Melanie Little's channel. I know about your channel, and everybody swears by you. So welcome on. Thanks for jumping up.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw you. I saw you were live on Twitter, so I figured I'd jump in and see. I like bouncing around and seeing perspectives. Like when you're streaming, it's hard because I'm streaming during the day and then I'm working on the podcast at night and on the weekends. So I don't have time to watch everybody's, but I like to, I like to bounce around and see different streamers, different ideas, and hear, what people have to say.
That's the thing with me is like I work full time. I do this fuller time. So I do my job, and then like I come home and I try to gather as much information throughout the day with updates and tweets and going down to the courthouse and being there and talking to everybody and then kind of bringing that back, absorbing it all, and then kind of coming on a live and spit it all out. So this is another full-time job for me, but I love doing it. And I especially love everything that I've been able to bring to the audience about this case. I mean, I think it's wow. That's all I have to say is just wow. So let me get your perspective. Enough of me talking. I want to hear your perspective as a woman, as a lady, someone of class. Everybody says that you're very classy, very thorough. What do you think about Trooper Proctor and what you've had to hear in this testimony today?
If I said what I thought about him, people would not call me classy anymore. So I'll I'll try to keep my thoughts PG. But he's like everything that's wrong with police officers, and not police. Let me rephrase that. He's everything wrong. Everything's wrong with bad police officers, using his position as a way of kind of, trying to going through the phone and the whole thing about the nudes and all of that. And I was a guest on Surviving the Survivor last night. And I had said, they had asked me about, what I thought about hearing everything he said. And I was telling them last night, the thing that really I literally had tears in my eyes when I was streaming it. And I see some of my members in here, so they can tell you, like, I literally was like clenched jaw, tears in my eyes when he was talking about her medical condition stuff. Like I'm a cancer survivor. I went through cancer. I've done like 30 surgeries, and I had, like tubes and all of these things. Like I've had like crazy, horrible medical situations, like, and I, for the rest of my life, I'll have to deal with this stuff. And so hearing him weaponize that and and make fun of her about it. And, it was so demeaning. And so that offended me way more than calling her a CUNT. That to me was so much more of a dehumanizing thing to say. And I was disgusted.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm alpha male. I'm guy all the way, football that. I had tears in my eyes today as well with the medical information. Because listen, we all have our own stuff. We all have our own medical stuff that we deal with. Some deal with psychological issues. Some deal with physical issues. Some people like yourself have been through cancer, and I'm glad that you have survived and you've beaten that. Other people have other ailments, and to put that on the world stage. I mean, this is not just in dead of mass 20 minutes from my house where I live. This is the world is watching now because this is at trial. And how embarrassing for her to have to sit there and listen to the vile crap that was spoken about her, not only to his friends, but to his officers and superior. I mean, just off the
that
chain,
to me, that to me made it such a bigger deal. Cause this is not just, like guys being, douchey guys in a text message. This is
Sure.
his superiors. This is what he's saying to his superiors too. And, and the things that he said that were, like the objectifying her and, how she had no ass and things like that.
Mhm.
That sucks to hear that that's offensive. It's, but I could get past that. I think it sucks that it had to come out on a like worldwide stage. I can't imagine how she felt listening to that, her family listening to that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how the O'Keefes felt having to listen to that, because they're up here, watching all of this go down. And this is the dude who they're supposed to be having their full faith in to be able to solve the murder of, or the death of their son. So can you imagine having to sit there and listen to leaky balloon knots while you're having to mourn the loss of your child? So, just for everybody involved, it just makes him look like such a crap person.
Yeah, and the scary thing about it, Brandy, is this. Not only, and this, not only has he talked about Karen Reed this way, every single person that he has ever been involved in any type of investigation, I almost 100% guarantee you he's talked about them the same exact way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's vile.
It's a character thing, because the thing is like we all have those group texts or those, private texts that we don't want read out loud. You always have that, 1 or 2 or 3 people that you vent to and you say whatever and whatever goes. Not your superiors. The fact that he felt comfortable enough for that shows that is part of his character, not part of him venting to a family member to say, whatever he needed to get off of his chest. And it's 2 very different things to me.
Yeah. It's it's crazy because I kind of like, I got to sit in court the other day when Yuri was first on the stand, and to see the jurors' reactions, during that, and seeing, how they were not engaged when Lally was speaking. They kind of were all over the place. And then Alan Jackson takes the stage, and it's like, boom, all eyes on Jackson. And they started playing like this tennis match back and forth. Jackson, witness, Jackson, witness. I can only imagine what their faces were like today. And I think Turtle Boy was reporting on it. I saw Jess Machado reporting, a lot of people reporting, and just saying, some of the mouths of the women's were just wide open, like in awe and just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine. Did your mouth drop when you started to hear all the vile stuff? I mean, mine did. I mean, it was just like,
yes. And my members always joke about how I can't fix my face. So I am like, you know how like when you pull up your text and there's like all the emojis like right there, that's how my faces are all day long. Like I cannot fix my face. If I'm thinking something, you are going to see it. And so the entire time I went through like the whole like the whole list of emojis on my face. I was like, my jaw dropped, and then I'm angry, and then I'm rolling my eyes, and then, like the one with like the steam coming out and all those. So yeah, I went through the whole thing. It was shocking to hear. And again, I know that some of it, like, and I'm not defending him in any way, but like with some of it, like I said, I can understand, saying some of those things, but he crossed the line so far. And because he did so to his superior, not just like, I can't believe this crazy heifer, like this was so far beyond that. It was something totally different. It was
yeah.
bad.
I mean, listen, we have private conversations. We say things in text messages that we shouldn't say, but I think you've gotten to that point. Not only did it translate to his friends, and the thing is talking to his superiors about that opened up the window to look back and say, well, if he's saying it to them, what else is he saying? And he's saying this not even 16 hours into an investigation. And again, he's already made his determination. He's already saying we're going to basically pin it on her, so there's no heat on the Albert's house. I mean, it was all set up, it was all lined up. Can I just pull these up real quick? Hang on 1 second. Double M99, thank you so much for the 35. Said if anyone gets a chance, please check out the documentary, the 7-5. It's all about police corruption in the NYPD in the late 80s. It's mind-blowing. Google Michael Dowd. I will check that out. Thank you for pointing that out. Nikki, thank you for the 20. She said, I have a complete pelvic prolapse because I'm 4'10" and had 8 to 9 pound 8 to 9 pound baby. Wow. I had got reconstruction down there. It's humiliating surgeries to follow that are beyond words. Nikki, very brave of you to bring that up. I'm sorry for everything you're going through. Thank you for the 20. I appreciate that. And I hope that you go get through your surgeries and well enough to live, live a much better life. So thank you. And it's terrible that, and we're hearing a lot of people talking about this stuff. I mean, I have my own issues. I'm sure everybody in this audience has their own issues. But to have that out on the world stage like that, it's just completely embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I can't imagine how she felt, and I can't imagine how the family felt. And, and I hate it for all of them. I've been very open, and I've said from the beginning, like I fully acknowledge all of the issues in this case. I go through it in my podcast. I break every single possible detail down, every conflicting everything. I am very, very tough on the investigators. I have been very careful about the like pointing out, situations and things that, don't add up to me. But I've been very careful about not giving too much of my own personal opinion on theories of what I think happened, because I don't want to influence too much. I want to, hear everybody else's perspective. And, it has been so frustrating watching this and, hearing some of the stuff that's come out, because I went into this wanting so much to think like, okay, well, Occam's razor, this is just, the easiest thing happened. Like, she hit him and now they're trying to, defense is going to defense. But there's so many problems, and there's so many things that keep popping up, and there's so many coincidences, and there's just all of this stuff that's happening. And it's, if the shoe were on the other foot and it was, this was instead of the defense saying that this happened, and, they're like, oh, this is, we can explain. If it was the defendant saying, oh, I can explain, it would be a totally different ballgame, because everybody be like, okay, yeah, there's no such thing as coincidence. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes to get a verdict, and if they can even get a verdict, or if it's going to be a hung jury. I'm really curious to see.
That's the scary thing about it. The hung jury scares me, because then you're going to go all through this again.
Yeah.
And that's taxing, because not only is it taxing emotionally, financially, it's going to just keep adding up. It just keeps adding up and adding up. That's interesting.
And if it has gotten this toxic with, some of the stuff happening, like just the vitriol that has come with this case, I'm getting battered right now on X, in a way that I've never experienced before. And it is so emotionally and mentally exhausting for little old me, who is a nobody. So I can't even imagine how it must be to have to deal with this kind of stuff, like being part of, the O'Keefe family or the Reed family, because they're having to be, right there in it, like every day. I can't imagine if it's this toxic now, having to go through a retrial, the level that it would escalate to in that situation. So I don't envy the jury, but I'm, I guess we'll see what happens.
Donnie, $5 says, everyone take note. This is your town as well. Become involved. I've spoken about that. I've said those words a million times. Not only is this going on in Canton, Massachusetts, not only is this going on in Dedham, this is your town too. Know who the people you are. I've always said this, know who the people you're voting into your town and to run your towns and cities. Everybody gets very hung up on national elections, and I don't want to get too politicky here, but everybody gets hung up on national elections. The most important thing is the people that run your communities. That is very important. Get involved. It's urged me to get a lot more involved in my community. Literally, Canton, Massachusetts is 20 minutes from my house. I'm like, oh my God, it just feels like it's in another world over there of like, what is going on? I can't believe it. And this is going to be the stuff that literally books are going to be written. Movies are probably going to be made. Just pending the outcome of all this. But in my personal opinion, I don't know, Brandy, how much you watch me. I'm very, very pro Karen Reed. I mean, I'm not shy about it. I put it out there. We raise money for her defense fund and kick it back. I just don't see it. But you are right about the there's no algorithm, in my opinion, that could run and pinpoint all these coincidences. There's just no way. There's no way
Yeah.
it could happen.
Yeah.
It's just no way. And I love the
It's
fact
too
that,
much.
yeah, Jackson said the other day to Yuri with the chief, oh, it's just ironic that you guys pass and meet up exactly at the same time. Like you weren't talking about that you weren't going to go back to the scene at the exact same time. It's just a coincidence. There's no way. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And, there's been so many other things too, like just even, like I'm ready to hear from the experts. I want to hear it from them. I did a video on the 227 search because I talked to some coders since we didn't have the digital,
Right.
phone. I talked to coders about like, how does the coding work? Tell me what to expect. And that was really interesting because the 227 thing was the very first thing that I was like, okay, now wait a minute. So I'm ready to hear about that. I'm ready to hear from the, medical examiners, the reconstructionists, all of that, because right now there's nothing that has made sense to me and there's nothing that can put everything together. But I have I have a very intense timeline, and even some of the stuff that, trying to, because I try to make myself argue both sides, and even the stuff like with the 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. Google search, when I put that into the timeline, she said in her testimony that she stopped Googling it or didn't get the answer or whatever because they were moving John. So then her and Karen started to go with John. John had been in the ambulance for 10 minutes.
Yep.
So when I put all of this stuff together in the timeline, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't work either. So even the explanation for the morning search, the Google search, didn't work because when you put it in the timeline, that math ain't mathin'. So I'm ready to hear, from all of that and see if it will help to answer any questions or not. Because if it doesn't, then that's if you can't end a case with questions because that's a not guilty verdict.
Right.
So, and right now I don't, there's no way I could vote guilty. So.
Gerard says, I wake up with Brandy and then end the day with LTL. Thank you. We both appreciate that. And thank you for the 5. We'll add that to the running total that we have going on here. So I find it curious and very interesting. And maybe that's just because Alan Jackson has just done such a great job on Cross so far. I mean, he's just saying we only need like 4 days at the end of this to wrap this up. Let me ask your opinion. How do you think they wrap this up? How do you think they approach this at the end?
I think the biggest thing is going to be bringing in their experts, because the thing that they need for the doubt for the jurors is going to be to just give them another theory. They don't have to prove that whoever it is in the third party culprit, they don't have to prove that Brian Albert or Brian Higgins or anybody else did anything. All they have to prove, or not even prove, they don't even have to prove it, but all they have to do is offer a reasonable explanation for how something could have happened that does not involve her hitting John O'Keefe with the car. So if, they have the medical examiner come in and say, this is, the animal wounds, and this is this, and this is whatever. And then they have their reconstructionist come in and say, this is how this works, and it doesn't work this way. All it takes, the jury does not have to say, I 100% believe that that's what happened. They can still, if any of them, depending on what the reconstructionists say or whoever says from the Commonwealth, they can hear that and say, this is probably more likely. All it takes for that not guilty is for them to say, that's possible.
Right.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, just judging by looking at the jurors' faces the other day, I think a lot of them have that on their, like, that's possible.
Yeah.
But I think this was, I don't know. I said Jen McCabe for me was the most damaging testimony, but I think this right here this takes the cake right now. This is kind of the cherry on top. When I heard all of this today, I'm like, oh, this is not good. And, nor should it be, I'm just saying, but I said, this is going to be the one that sinks it. What for you was the real testimony? Was it today or was it any of the previous people?
This has been a big part of it. I mean, this is the lead investigator. And as much as they've tried to skirt around everything else and bring in everything else that they could through other people to try to limit Proctor being on the stand, Proctor's the lead investigator. And they can call him the case manager or, the janitor for all I care. He's the lead investigator and we all know it. So to have him up there and to to look at what he has done and what he has said and what he has not done, and know that you have somebody who is not trustworthy. And a big thing today that I don't think a lot of people really like, I was surprised how many people didn't pick up on what a big deal this is. Drinking and driving in his cruiser when he was with Chris or Kevin Albert, that's a huge deal, because that right there shows that I don't care about the rules.
Yep.
I don't have to follow the rules. My job is, I'll do whatever I want to do. That to me showed that he has no concern, like that he feels like he's above the rules and he doesn't have to
Yeah.
follow
Above
protocol.
the law. He's above the
Mhm.
law. That's what he's basically saying, that the rules don't apply to him. And that's exactly what he did in this case. The rules just didn't apply. And he opened his trap and started flapping all this stuff because he had the meeting with Jen and co. And that's the way that he was going to go, because he wasn't going to put this on Brian Albert or anybody inside that house because of the relationships. And again, if he probably did some real investigative work and went inside the house that night or canvassed the neighborhood like normal detectives would do and lead investigators, probably came up with a different opinion or some information, and not have to have Karen Reed in this position. But again, this is the Ivory Tower clan that lives in Canton, that they're not going to let anybody knock this tower down. They're all going to get in on this. And they thought that Karen Reed was going to be the weakest one of them all. Well, guess what? You got another thing coming to you, because Karen didn't lay down. And what they do, they had lesser charges on her at first. They blasted her with that. They probably said, just take a plea. You'll be out in 5 years, whatever. She didn't want to do that. So then they nailed her with second-degree murder. I haven't seen second-degree murder here. And I try to look at this at a very neutral or unobjective way. And I'm looking and I'm like, I haven't seen one shred of evidence that says that Karen Reed's done this. I just haven't.
I haven't either. And the whole Aruba thing to me is a nothing burger. I don't like, that was one of the things that I was really frustrated about, because there are all these people that, they didn't even talk to Lucky, the snowplow driver, until 21 months later. But they knew that, Karen Reed yelled at, Sullivan's little sister in Aruba, like that. It just felt so tunnel vision, and so just, I don't care about the actual investigation. I care about like building something against her. And that was what was so frustrating, because it felt like one of the most simple policing things you can do is interview the people who were there in the time. And it's just like, no big deal. But let's get this gossip about what happened in Aruba. And I think that that's such a BS motive. It's there. Like, and especially because you can see on the video, we know that, or we've heard that they get into an argument later at some point because there's angry voicemails, but to see them on the video, you can tell that they're, smiling and having a good time and laughing. So if there's a drunk argument later, look, I've been there, but this is not one of those things where you see this building animosity in them all night. And, so she was like, I'm going to go. What did he say? Waffle him? Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't. Ugh.
That means to me, when I'm talking to my buddies, and I said, I'm just saying, I know Tom and Jack got in a fight last night, and Jack waffled him. That means he hit him. He pounded him. To me, that's he got hit. He got waffled.
Yeah. Well, and didn't they say, whoever responded said, so are you saying that there's that it's a female that cop that hit him or something like that, or however it was worded? And I was like, okay, so that it made it sound like they thought the same thing, because to me that's what it like. But,
and then real quick, and you go back to the conversation about fighting. Look at we've all fought with our significant other. We've all been there. We've all said things that you don't mean. You don't mean what that meaning in the moment. That's a way to get a reaction out of your spouse. You say something like that to gain a reaction because you're pissed. To me, the arguments, that doesn't mean anything to me. Listen, do you think that an argument in Aruba is already Karen Reed just going to hold that on her shoulder and say, yeah, this is the night I'm going to get him. Get out of the, the truck, John. Just stay there for a second. I'm going to back up. Doesn't even make sense. And just even going to the broken tail light too. I mean, I worked, when I was in high school, I went to a trade school, and I worked in an auto body repair shop for 3 years. Not my sophomore all the way up to senior year, and I worked on many cars and touched 1,000 taillights, taking those out, repairing dents and all that. There is no flipping way that any part of John's body, what the Commonwealth is trying to say, smash that taillight like it was. That, to me, that was a hammer that hit that taillight to make it explode.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. That's something I've said before too, because I did paint and body work on cars. I grew up in a body shop. My dad had one. My uncles all had one, and I built my own muscle car when I was in college. So like I am in no way a taillight expert, but I've been around enough, and I've been around enough collision, work to know that they don't break easily, and it takes, and they're made like that. They're made specifically not to, to be able to take a little bit of an impact without shattering. So to me, I was like, it's so hard for me to understand how it would shatter that way and looking at his injuries, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see it. I don't get it. So, but
yeah, it's interesting. And if I can find it really quick, I just want to show you something really, really quick. Let's see, because I stood next to, here we go. I'm already gonna hear, not this picture again. My girlfriend's in the chat, so she's gonna be like, not this picture again. But here, okay, so we were out to dinner one night, and I went, holy crap, that's the same model and make of Karen's SUV. And I stood next to it. Now I'm 6 foot. Everybody's gonna go, no, you're not. And there's, no, you're not. I'm 6 foot. And John O'Keefe, I think, is 6'2". So he's a little bit taller than me. Tell me where on my body would damage that taillight. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. I would have bruising or a broken rib or a broken arm or what it may be, or if they're just trying to say it's his head. I said, and I know I'm going to sound vile here. If that hit his head at that speed, his head would be crushed. I mean, just judging on the damage to that taillight, his head literally would be crushed.
Yeah, so it just doesn't make sense to me. And when I first started looking into this, I was like, okay, well, maybe he threw if they were fighting and he threw the glass, like the cocktail glass, and it hit the light, and that's how it broke. I was thinking maybe that could be. So I'm trying to find all these different scenarios on what could possibly explain it, because to me it made no sense. I can't make that make sense in my head, and I don't think that anybody else will be able to either, unless they have somebody who can come in and suddenly show this is what happened, this is how it
how they do it, Brandy. You know how they do it? The Commonwealth has the video, and on opening statement, Karen Reed hit and killed John O'Keefe. Play the video, trial's over. But ironically, Brandy, you know this, no one's ring camera worked that night. There's no footage. It all got erased. It's all lost. You got to tell me that probably multiple people on that street have ring cameras and not one of them worked that night. Look at the coincidence of that. I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
There's so many things that wouldn't normally happen. It's if it were one or two things, it's kind of like when you build something from IKEA, there's always going to be one or two screws loose that, you just throw in the trash can and you assume everything's going to be fine. That's fine. But this is not that. This is a whole bunch of things that have not fit into this puzzle, or IKEA furniture, what if you want to keep with the analogy, these are a whole lot of things that don't fit into it. And I don't know how they're going to be able to get past the hurdle of reasonable doubt if they are not able to clean some of that up. And I'm not there. I don't know that it will be possible for me to get there. I have said all along, I am open to hear all information. I just personally have not been able to, I'm not there.
Let me ask you a question, because obviously the first time we're talking. When you went into this case, did you go into it with open mind, or did you have a perspective right out of the gate? Yeah, an
No,
opinion. I'm sorry, opinion right out of the gate.
I went into it with an open mind. I went into it when I first I my first thing I did was pull the two loudest in the room. So I listened to I think I watched like one video of Turtle Boy, and then
Mhm.
I watched one video because obviously he's the loudest in the room on that side. And then I watched one video of Wendy Murphy.
Oh God, you went through that
She was
torture.
she was the loudest in the room. And then I watched the video of them like not too long after that. Then they were like arguing against each other and stuff. And so I listened and I was like, okay, they are both so sure.
Mhm.
So, oh, Wild Child saying, "Do you want a biscuit?" Wait till you see Wild Child. I'll show y'all tomorrow. Somebody sent me a compilation of all of my bevisms at the end of the day, and it's hilarious.
Oh,
I'll
that's
show
funny.
y'all tomorrow. But I watched the two loudest in the room, thinking like, okay, if they're both so sure, how are they both so sure? So then I
Right.
started kind of digging into it, and the Google search was the first thing that really piqued my interest and thought, okay, well, this could be something.
Mhm.
And then I got into all of the documents, and there were so many conflicting statements in the documents. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is a problem. And I started putting everything out, and I made a big timeline of just the statements, and nobody's stuff lined up. And that's when I was like, okay, wait, something's off here. And so I've been very open the whole time, but I have been very, very hard on the investigation and the things that were done wrong, the documents that, the reports that there's no signed statements. Who doesn't have signed statement? If you're not going to record it, then there needs to be a signed statement saying, yes, this is what I am saying happened, and this is what time, and all of that. There were just too many issues for me to think something in the milk ain't clean. I don't know what it is. So I started kind of digging in, and there are things that the defense has said that I don't necessarily agree with, that and like I said, I'm open. There are things that the defense has said that to me, I don't think makes sense. There are a lot of things the Commonwealth has said to me that don't make sense. So, trying to kind of put it together, but I have not been able. Sorry, my dog's going nuts. I have not been able to get past, not even just get past reasonable doubt, but I've not even been able to get to the point where I'm like, I can see jurors getting past reasonable doubt, because but it's hard too, because I've been so invested in it for so long that, it's hard for me to try to picture what the jury is, what they know, and what, based on what they're seeing. So
That's the toughest thing. That's the $1,000,000 question. Like, what way are they leaning right now?
yeah,
I know the way that I want them to lean because I stick with the facts and what I've found out about this case. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing, and
yeah,
this is going to change a lot of things I hope it changes a lot of things in the system. I hope it
me
changes a
too.
lot of things in the fact that we need to vet police officers a lot more before we just hand them a badge. I think there needs to be a lot more psychological testing on these police officers. Obviously, the physical demands of the work, but really look into these people. I mean, when you go to the CIA, they don't just say, come on into the CIA. You go through like a year vetting process. They want multiple interviews with many, many members of your family, your friends, and they go back to like people that might have taught you in third grade. They just don't take you on the CIA. And that's
Right.
another whole nother show. I know people are going to go, the CIA are corrupt. They're corrupt. I'm just making an example. I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a lot of police reform. And the thing is like, I'm super pro police. If something goes on at my house, I'm calling 911. But I am just
Yeah.
like, I'm telling you, it's made me think a lot more about who's handed a badge and a gun now. It just makes you think a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. And I do hope, and that's one of the reasons that I've been so hard on the investigators in my podcast, because I have pointed out every single thing that I can find that I feel like there needs to be light on, that should have been done differently, that should have been, and I've been very, very hard on them, because I want it to be so humiliating for them that this is on a world stage, that they never do it again. The victims deserve so much better. They deserve so much better, because if
Mhm.
things would have been done how they should have been done, and they would have done their job properly, then this could have avoided so much pain and so much, so much money, so much time, so much everything, so much everything, all the things. It could have avoided all the things. So
Yeah, and the sad thing about it is the evidence that they could have used to prove what happened inside 34 Fairview is destroyed, in my opinion, completely destroyed. They mishandled
yeah.
everything. I mean, if a jury doesn't even look like that, and so just based off the handling of evidence, the way that it was handled, tagged wrong. What was it? The IT guy? I love this one too. Lally hands him the CD and he goes, "This is the CD that he gave to the lead detective." He goes, "That's not the CD I gave him." I mean,
Yeah.
how like bad is that? That's just it's
Yeah.
really bad for the pro. I
It's
mean, there's so many things.
There's so many. And that's one of
Yeah.
the things too, is like, it's been hard doing the podcast because I'm like, trying to fit, and I've had to do a couple bonus episodes, which is what I'm like, I was taking a break now because I'm working on it, trying to get that new episode out for
Gotcha.
tomorrow morning. But but trying to narrow things down because I'm like, but wait, there's more. So I did like my last week's episode was like almost, I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. And normally I keep them just under an hour, but I'm like, I can't, I got to get, as much as I can in here. And, but yeah, it's been.
Are you a live streamer or you just do videos? I'm sorry, I haven't
Um,
watched your channel that much. Do you do live streams or?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do live streams, and then I do live streams, and then so like I'm streaming the trial during the day, and then I do the podcast, which I have the podcast on my YouTube channel too, but it's on like
Yeah.
Spotify and Apple and
Okay. Good for you. That's great.
and all that. So, which has been great because I've had a lot of people who have the podcast has done really well. It's been in the top like 20 to 50 in the United States in true crime for the
Good for
last couple
you.
months. So there's a
All
lot
right.
of people that are hearing about it, that
Right.
because there's a huge true crime community out there that doesn't watch YouTube and doesn't. So all
Yeah.
they're getting is the mainstream media stuff. And as well as I do, that ain't that
Yeah.
you're
They're
only
not-
getting,
Yeah.
you
You
can
should
only
see the
get
way
what you
they're
can get.
recording it around here. It's incredible. The biasness here that they have in this case. Where can people find, obviously on YouTube, where can we find you on X? What is your
Yeah.
handle on X?
I in
You
the
don't know it,
boxing
dude. I don't
ring
know
where they're
mine
like
either.
attacking me. It's I don't know mine. Let's see. Profile.
Sorry.
Oh, at Brandy in Church.
And they can find
BRANDI
you.
in Church. And then my YouTube is youtube.com/@brandichurchwell.
Yeah, I dropped your link a little while ago. So yep.
Okay, yeah. And then the podcast it's 13th Juror Podcast. It's the second season. That it's like Conspiracy in Canton is what the second season's called, but you can look it up on 13th Juror Podcast is what it is. So, but
That's cool.
I do I put everything together and kind of go through all of the details and recaps. And then when you're watching it, there's a lot of stuff that you miss when you're like watching it live. So I go back and I download the transcripts and then go back through everything and try to put everything together. So
that's great. Will you come back and hang out again sometime?
Yes, of course. I will.
Right,
Absolutely.
I'd love to have you back on. I think that's good. I'd love to get you up here with Jess Machado as well too, and I think that would be a really great show. She's in courtroom reporter here, local to our area. She goes in the court. I don't know if you follow her on X, but she's doing a show with me tomorrow night. She's doing like weekly check-ins to kind of give us some updates on how the jury's reaction, the courtroom vibe, and stuff like that. So it's been really good. But I'd love to have you come back on again.
Yeah, I'm down.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks
for jumping up. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too. I'm going to lurk for a little bit while I'm working.
Yeah, and continued success on your channel. And we'll get you back soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, y'all.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. That was Brandy Church from 13 Juror. That was great. Thank you. Thanks for jumping up spontaneously. I love that. All right, let's play out a little bit more of this. I know it's late, but we're having a room here and a lot of people in the room. We'll hang out. Oh, by the way, I had a couple of Cash Apps come through. Let's add that to the total. Any new Cash Apps? No new Cash Apps. Let's see. Lady Law, 11-month member. Thank you. She said, thank you, LTL and Brandy. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a channel moderator. She's great. I got to have Brandy back. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming up, Brandy. I appreciate that. All right, let's play through.
Misread? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You can get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Ms. Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Ms. Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy. 1 second, sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah, it's a good point, Mary. And I said that too. I wish I'm going to probably say Jen McCabe. Did Celtics win? Celtics won, right? They're going to sweep. If they won tonight, forget it. It's over. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to play in. Do they go back to Boston for game 4? Celtics up 3 minutes and 3 minutes to go. If they win, do they still play in Dallas? Because that would suck to win the championship there. I'd love them to come home. All right, let's keep playing here.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
No, sir.
Let's skip to 25:43.
Stays in Dallas for 4. Ugh. That sucks.
On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
Yes.
And you wrote, "Nothing, writing a warrant." Is that right?
Correct.
Lady Law with the $5 Cash App. Thank you so much. We'll add that to the total. We should be about $255 right now from my account.
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Excuse me.
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak?" Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see it. Sidebar, take that down, please.
All right, we're gonna speed up.
How did you put it? It did not affect the integrity of the investigation, of your investigation, correct? That's what you
Correct.
said to the jurors.
Correct.
You know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
It's something that you don't have.
It means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's
Calamity
part of it as
Kid, thank
well.
you for your membership. Appreciate
Do
you.
you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
When you say they're juvenile and regrettable, it sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury for your conduct. Is that what you're doing?
For those text,
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Ms. Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
As a lead investigator in this case, you were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation remained free of any conflicts of interest. It's part of your job, correct?
Correct.
Throughout the pendency of this investigation, in this case, you've denied having any conflict of interest in this case. Isn't that right?
Correct.
In fact, a couple of months ago in February of 2024, you testified in a different proceeding. Is that right?
Yes.
And you testified under oath in that proceeding on February 1st that you did not know any members of the Albert family or McCabe family, correct?
It's a lot.
Certain members of the Albert family I did not know. I know Chris and Julie and Colin. I don't know the McCabes.
That wasn't my question. Did you testify? Let's take them one at a time. Did you testify under oath, same oath you took here today, in a former proceeding in February of 2024, that you did not know and did not have any relationship with members of the Albert and McCabe families? Did you?
I haven't had a chance to review those minutes. I've only had one opportunity to, and that was a couple months ago. So I would want to review those minutes in order to answer that accurately.
You can't remember how you testified, whether or not you knew or had relationships with the Alberts and McCabes?
Objection.
Sustained.
As you sit here right now, you need to refresh your recollection. You
Right.
can't remember what you said.
Objection.
And that's the federal.
Do you remember what you said?
Federal.
During that proceeding, no.
That's the
Would it
Fed.
refresh your recollection if you took a look at those grand jury minutes?
Yes.
What page, Mr. Jackson?
This is page 01563.
I have a question to the audience because just about this point, I had to leave for work today. I know that there was testimony talking about Colin Albert. Was that after the lunch break? Because if it is, I'm going to fast forward to that and start there. And I want to see the end when Jackson says, "Shame on you, sir." So maybe someone can help me out in the chat because unfortunately I didn't get to watch the whole testimony today. Where does it kind of pick up about Colin in conversations with Jennifer McCabe? Was that after the lunch break? Casey says, I think so. I think it was too. Let's see. Colin was brought up on redirect. Okay. I believe before. All right. Let me just speed up a little bit here. Maybe we can get into the mix. Let's see. My plan wasn't to play like all 4 hours of this tonight, obviously, because we'll be here forever. But I wanted to break some of this down. Let's speed up about 20 minutes and see where we're at.
Albert or Colin Albert
Aha.
in any.
That's what I want to know. Let's see.
Gee, I recognize this text message from Julie.
And she texts, "This is the weekend I've been waiting for. Michael, please send ski videos if CP doesn't share with me," with a
I'm
laugh
not
in
gonna put it
face,
on
correct?
too.
Correct.
That text was sent on February 24th, 2022, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was less than a month after Mr. O'Keefe's death, isn't that right?
Correct.
And less than a month after you had been assigned to the investigation in which Julie Albert was a witness, correct?
Correct.
And her husband, Chris Albert, was a witness, correct?
Correct.
And her son, you knew, Colin, was involved as well, correct?
Yes.
Who is CP in that text message?
We'll go to that.
It's a nickname I have for my sister.
Courtney Proctor, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, if I may have just a moment.
Okay.
Actually, I remember this because now he has a lot of conversation with his sister. I remember this. I don't think Colin was quite brought up here. They go to the break. I was listening to this. Let's see.
Right?
Objection.
Sustained.
How did you take her Jesus Christ? The party was one of the Alberts with two exclamations.
I remember all this. I'm going to go past the break. Let's see. Here we go. I remember when he walked off that stand, the look that Karen gave him just before the break. Watch this. Right there.
Did you or did you not look at any data from Life 360 from Jennifer McCabe's phone?
Objection.
All right, so this is a good time to take morning recess, and I'll see Constance in 15, 20
Watch
minutes.
Karen, the look he gives him when he walks by her. Celtics are going to win. Awesome. Congratulations, Celtics. You can kind of see his head. I remember this come into view right around here, and she just eyeballs him. Right there. See him, her following him. Look at. Yeah. All right, we're going to go past the lunch break. I want to hear some of the testimony after the lunch break. Let's see where we take off. All right.
Positive if that report, if he generated that report.
Okay, so it goes without saying, I shouldn't say that because if it goes without saying, I shouldn't say it. Did you review a Life 360 report in an effort to determine whether or not Colin and Allie were telling the truth?
Be right back.
No.
You grew up in Canton, did you not?
Yes.
I don't want an address, but just generally as a crow flies, how close would you say you live from the Albert residence at the former Albert residence at 34 Fairview in Canton?
2-3 miles.
How about from the McCabe residence? And again, don't give me any addresses.
Maybe a mile.
You know, given the fact that you grew up in Canton, that it's about a mile walk through some woods to get to Canton High School from 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Did you have any Canton police officers canvass the area around the high school or filling stations around the high school, gas stations around the high school for video surveillance footage?
No.
Did you have any conversations with anybody from Canton about video surveillance concerning the high school and or surrounding gas stations?
Yes.
Who is that?
It was Officer Galanis.
Can you turn to tab 9, please? First, let me ask you if you recognize these texts with any individual.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize those texts?
That was a text communication between Officer Galanis and myself.
Taking a look at those text communications, do you see the inclusive dates of those on the face sheet
Yes,
document?
I do.
What are those inclusive dates?
First message sent, date and time, February 18th, 2022, 1:02 p.m. Last message sent, date and time, February 18th, 2022, 2:05 p.m.
These are texts on a single day, correct?
That's correct.
If you would look at page 2623. Your Honor, may I publish?
Is there any objection?
Same one, but
I'll let you publish it.
Thank you. Yes, you can. In this text, you're asking a member of the Canton Police Department to look around the surrounding area of 34 Fairview Road for camera equipment, correct?
I was asking if they had any knowledge of cameras in the area.
Okay. And of course, that was to an officer who was employed by which department?
Canton Police Department.
Which you knew at the time that you asked for assistance in February of 2022 had been recused from the case, correct?
Correct.
And should have no investigative involvement in the case, correct?
I did not request for them to pull video. I just simply asked, what are some good cameras in the area?
Which is an assistance for you in your investigation, correct?
They have more knowledge in the area as far as useful cameras. So yes, I reached out regarding cameras in the area.
Or assistance from Canton PD officers,
Yes.
whom you knew to be recused.
Yes.
Yes. You specifically asked Officer Galanis whether, quote, the high school had cameras facing the street, correct?
Correct.
And Officer Galanis writes back, the Canton Mutual gas station has unreal cameras. That's how I picked up that kid, and it had him walking into the woods by the new street Larkin Court, correct?
Correct.
You responded, good to know, I'll add that to the list, correct?
Yes.
Did any of the reports
Tammy, thank you so much for the 50 on Cash App. Thank you so much. She says, you're a kind man, Brian, and hashtag free Karen Reed. So we'll add that to the total. I think we were at what, 255, add another 50, 25% of all donations tonight will get kicked back to Karen Reed's defense fund. And she needs more than ever now. All right, let's keep playing.
you turned over in discovery ever mentioned the Canton Mutual gas station cameras or the cameras from Canton High School?
No, because we did not retrieve any video from those locations.
And you didn't mention in your report that you even sought the footage from those locations, correct?
I don't believe so.
You did say that you would add it to the quote list. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're aware, obviously, as one of your responsibilities to maintain and keep your handwritten notes from all communications, all investigative activities involved in the case, correct?
Yes.
And
Didn't
you
know
have no
that.
notes on this
Yeah.
conversation, correct?
Correct.
I mean, come on, man. This guy. I mean, he's exposing, and I said this before, not only is he exposing how Trooper Proctor talks about people or individuals that he's either investigating, that may have come in contact with through his career, his work, but Jackson's also exposing here the poor and lack of effort and procedure in his investigative work. No notes. So if you're doing that here, what other cases have you done this in? This is bad. This is going to be tremendous fallout. And we already saw it today. A motion filed by the lawyer in Brian Walsh's case. If Brian Walsh walks, I'm going to do backflips. I mean, it's clear to me. Listen, I get it. Guilty until proven innocent, but that dude is. All right, let's keep playing on here.
As the lead investigator, Trooper Proctor,
Austin, thank you for becoming a new member.
you are responsible ultimately for deciding which witnesses will be interviewed and which witnesses will not be interviewed, correct?
Yes.
Like I mentioned yesterday or Monday,
Don't pick
it's
on
a
me.
collaborative effort within the office. So we bounce ideas off each other as far as what witnesses need to be interviewed, et cetera. So it's more of a group effort, a group decision.
But as the case officer, you make some of the final decisions on who's going to be investigated.
One of my other moderators, if you can, I don't know if Rogue is in the room. If Rogue's in the room, if not, maybe Mary can take over. Casey's got to go to bed. I appreciate it, Casey. Thank you. Right now we're at 310 total. If we get any more donations, if one of my moderators can just keep track of it. She said I'm at 315 now. If we can just keep a track of it, I would really appreciate it. I'll call them out if you can keep adding them up. Rogue, if you can just take over, I'd appreciate it. 315. I know she's got to go to bed. Good luck with the doggy in the morning. Let me know. 317. Let me know about Stella. Please. Okay. Let's keep playing on. Thank you, Rogue. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Say goodnight to KC, everybody.
Investigated, who's going to be interviewed, things of that nature. Right?
Facilitate certain areas, yes.
I want to talk about some of the witnesses that you interviewed in the days and weeks immediately following Mr. O'Keefe's death. You interviewed Brian Albert, correct?
Correct.
Nicole Albert, yes?
Yes.
Chris Albert,
Yes.
Julie Albert,
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe,
Yes.
her husband Matt McCabe.
Correct.
All those individuals are related in one way or another, either through marriage or otherwise.
What name got left out, everybody? Type it in the chat. What name got left out? What name didn't we hear? Type it in the chat.
To each other, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And you also interviewed Brian Higgins, is that right?
Yes.
I want to talk for a second about the individuals that you did not immediately choose to interview. Julie Nagel wasn't interviewed until October 2022, correct?
Correct.
That's 7 months after the incident, right?
Correct.
Sarah Levinson was not interviewed until October of 2022, also 7 months later, correct?
Correct.
Caitlin Albert was interviewed July 6th, 2023, correct?
Yes.
That's 16 months after the incident. Is that right?
Correct.
Brian Albert Jr., July 6th, 2023, right?
Yes, sir.
Ali McCabe, August of 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's 18 months after the incident, correct?
Correct.
Heather Maxson, she was not interviewed until September 21st, 2023, 17 months later, correct?
Wow.
Correct.
Just to put that in perspective, this is 2.5 years later, and we're at trial right now. That's like what, a gap of almost 6 months? Just 6 months before trial is when he actually started interviewing some of these people.
All right, that's actually, my math is off. That's about 18 months later. Is that right?
Correct.
Richard D'Antano, September 2nd, 2023. Is that right?
Yes.
So you waited more than 18 months to interview him as well. Is that right?
Yes.
And then Brian Loughran, snowplow driver, August 2023,
Turtle Boy.
17 months after the incident, correct?
Correct.
I want to talk for a second about this last individual, Brian Loughran. He also goes by the name Lucky. Is that right?
Yes.
Lucky Loughran. You testified under oath on April 21st, 2022 in the state court grand jury proceeding that no snowplow traveled down Fairview Road on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Why did you say that, Trooper Proctor?
That was based off interviews with Mr. Trotter, that the plows weren't out until they met up at 2:30. And then it was my understanding they were focusing on the main roadways.
You're aware that Michael Trotter testified in this case?
Okay.
Were you aware or not?
No.
I didn't hear that either, Rose. I think it is.
You did, in fact, interview Michael Trotter, did you not?
Yes.
And isn't it true that Michael Trotter told you that, in fact, Brian Loughran was plowing 34 Fairview that morning?
Objection.
Is that what he told you?
I don't recall that statement from him.
Michael Trotter testified that that's what he told you. Do you have any quarrel with that?
Objection.
That's the state.
In reality, Trooper Proctor, you did not want to speak to anybody in the weeks and months following this incident who didn't fit your narrative, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that true?
That's simply not true. Absolutely not.
Certainly, you didn't want to talk to anybody who could say that there was no body on the lawn at 2:30 in the morning. Is that right?
No, it's not true.
Are you aware that Lucky Loughran, in fact, did report that there was nobody on
Objection,
the
Your
lawn?
Honor.
So the objection sustained. I'm going to strike.
Did you include anything in your investigative report throughout the entire time you've been in charge of this investigation about Lucky Loughran and his observations?
Not until Sergeant Buchanan and I interviewed him.
And that was when?
I can't recall the exact date.
And that was after the defense brought him to your attention, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Not true?
Correct.
Are you still the case agent in charge of this case?
Yes.
As the lead investigator and the case agent, you're aware it's also your responsibility and your obligation to investigate all potential individuals, right? All potential suspects.
Yes.
You're obligated to investigate anybody who would have a motive, a means, and an opportunity to commit the crime or the offense, correct?
Correct.
Motive includes anything from financial gain to just be revenge, right?
Yes.
Could be a lover's quarrel, correct?
Yes.
Or it could be someone who's interested in someone romantically. correct?
Could be an argument inside of a vehicle.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Could you, what
I
was
didn't
your
hear
answer?
anything.
So, or it could be an argument contained inside a vehicle as well.
Yeah, which is the conclusion you jumped to 17 hours into your investigation, right?
Objection.
Mhm.
Is that right?
It's something, evidence we have contained within cell phones reiterates that fact.
When you decided that you were gonna make sure that the girl, I think that's what you called her, the girl was gonna have serious charges brought against her 17 hours into your investigation, you didn't have any evidence whatsoever that there was an argument inside the vehicle, did you?
To go towards intent, no. But as far as the physical evidence goes, we had compelling evidence indicating Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
So you just did
Okay,
this.
Mr. Jackson, I just have to keep your voice up, Trooper Proctor, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
You just did this piecemeal. So when you decided that the girl, Miss Reed, was gonna get serious charges against her, didn't have any indication of any intent, you just decided, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go with the physical evidence today. I'll figure out intent later. I'll figure out motive later, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Motive, means, and opportunity. We've talked a little bit about motive. What about means? The physical ability to commit the crime, right? That's obviously important.
Yes.
And the opportunity. So physical proximity to the incident, correct? Or the
Correct.
physical ability to commit the crime, correct?
Correct.
Did you investigate all potential suspects who would have had the motive, means, and opportunity to kill John O'Keefe?
Nope. See, this guy knows he effed up. I think he's feeling the heat now. But you know what? He probably walked out of there and just said, I'm laser proof. Nothing's going to happen to me. That's right. And Jen became the boss. Jen is his boss. Jen is the one that ran all of this when they had that first conversation. This is how we're going to do it.
Yes, and that motive, means, factored in with the physical evidence, pointed directly at Miss Reed. There's no one else had any motive. Mr. O'Keefe never went inside Fairview Road.
And you got all that, of course, from the Alberts and the McCabe's, right?
From Jen McCabe.
Yes.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Cool. So let's just believe that.
Let's talk about Brian Higgins for a second. You know that name?
I do, sir.
You personally interviewed Mr. Higgins, correct?
Sergeant Buchanan and I did, yes.
You keep adding other people into the interviews. I'm asking what you did, not what you and somebody else did. Did you personally interview Brian Higgins?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, I did.
He's a fellow law enforcement officer, and you knew that, right?
Yes.
He was a colleague of yours, correct?
He worked in a different agency, yes.
You waited until February 10th to conduct a pre-scheduled interview with Mr. Higgins, didn't you?
Yes.
And you interviewed him in the presence of his attorney, correct?
Correct.
He told you that he was engaged in a flirtatious relationship with Miss Reed.
He did.
As a matter of fact, he told you that he was engaged in a flirtatious relationship with Miss Reed over text messages, but on at least one occasion that resulted in a kiss, correct?
Yes.
And then he also told you that he had taken the liberty to extract certain conversations from his own cell phone, right?
Correct.
And he brought you a hard copy of those text messages, right?
He did.
Wow.
And you knew that those text messages were messages that he curated to give to you, right?
Yes.
He's the one that made the determination of what was important, what was not important to give to you, his interviewer, right?
Objection.
Was that your understanding, Trooper?
Wow.
It was my understanding Mr. Higgins was being very forthcoming by providing those messages. It's not uncommon for witnesses to take screenshots or send us emails or send us text messages. So he just had a different means of producing text messages.
Well, you were actually asked that question in a different proceeding, under different questioning, and you were asked whether or not in your career as a law enforcement officer has any person or witness ever brought a self-extraction of text messages to an in-person interview,
No.
correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Wow.
Correct. Most
And your answer was,
civil. I'm
your
sorry,
answer was, Trooper Proctor, you had never experienced that in the history of your career, correct?
correct.
And why did you just say that you did?
So you became aware pretty early on that Mr. Higgins at least had a motive to want to visit harm on John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
Well, you knew he had this flirtatious relationship with Karen Reed, is that right?
Yes,
You became aware that he ignored, you saw the text messages, you became aware that Karen Reed actually ignored text messages from Mr. Higgins while at the Waterfall Bar and Grill with John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
yes,
And you're aware that at 12:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sent a text message to John O'Keefe, coaxing him to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
I'll see you at sidebar on this.
That's the third party culprit because she's going to argue Brian Higgins is not on trial. That's what she's probably saying in the sidebar. Let's speed up a little bit.
Keith.
I wouldn't ask
They
you
were
about-
friends.
I wasn't asking about motive, I'm asking about means. Could he do it?
You go
Could he
back.
throw a punch?
Here we go. Let me speed up here a little bit. Sorry, everybody. Double time. Thank you all for being here. Make sure to smash that like button. What a treat we had. We had Brandy from the 13th juror on earlier. That was pretty cool. I'll cut that up tomorrow and I'll just post that up as a video. So if you missed that segment, I'll just post it as a segment tomorrow. That was cool. Very spontaneous. I love spontaneity when people can just jump up. That was cool. It was a great conversation. Like hearing her perspective. I like the fact that she's very convicted to stay neutral.
You are unmuted.
More than how we all feel.
Thank you.
You
You're aware that
It's
at
hard to stay
2:20
that,
a.m.,
it's hard to stay like that sometimes. You really get emotionally involved and you just say, screw this. I'm going this way.
Brian Higgins sent a text message to John O'Keefe prompting him to go to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that one. Go ahead.
I don't recall that text.
Do you recall a text from Brian Higgins to John O'Keefe after they left Waterfall? Where are you at?
I don't recall that one either.
You also recognized that Brian Higgins certainly had the means to commit the crime, correct?
No, I don't.
He's a big guy. Certainly had the physical ability to get into a physical altercation with John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Just because he's a big guy doesn't have the means or the motive to hurt Mr. O'Keefe.
I wouldn't ask
They
you
were
about
friends.
I wasn't asking about motive. I'm asking about means. Could he do it? Could he throw a punch? Knock a guy down, knock a guy out?
I can't speak to his fighting ability, sir.
Well, you've met him, right?
That one interview, yes.
Yeah, he's huge. Do you agree?
Objection.
Sustained.
He's a big dude, right?
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
Bigger than you.
Yep,
You knew that he was former military
I did, yes.
and he's a trained ATF agent, federal agent, right?
Yes,
And you were in possession of video surveillance from the Waterfall Bar and Grill, correct?
yes,
And literally in the minutes before John O'Keefe's death, you saw video surveillance of Brian Higgins and Brian Albert taking
Wow.
fighting stances with one another, correct?
I interpreted that as horsing around.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it, Trooper Proctor. I asked you if you saw it.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you see it or not?
I did.
And what you saw was these guys taking fighting stances, correct?
Objection.
Is that what you saw?
Playful fighting stances.
How do you know it was playful?
But you waited until February 10th to interview him, correct?
Yes,
And you decided not to image his phone. Is that right?
correct.
You didn't ask for consent to search his phone or to take his phone, correct?
No,
You didn't seek a search warrant to get his phone. Is that right?
no, sir.
Did you know that on January 29th at 2:22 a.m., there was a call between him and Brian Albert that morning?
I was not aware of that.
Wow.
Might have been important to your investigation, don't you think?
Yeah, you think?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Depends what that. I don't know what the call was
Oh,
about.
sorry, finish that. Depends.
I don't know what the call was about. I don't know if they actually connected and communicated what the length of the call was. So
Why wouldn't
Right.
you investigate that?
And you never asked, did you?
I was unaware that call took place.
And you were unaware that that call took place because you didn't get his phone to Proctor, right?
Typically, we don't get witnesses' phones, sir.
You were unaware of that call at that time because you didn't seek his phone, correct?
Objection.
Overruled.
Correct.
Right.
Wow.
The medical examiner notified you on April 28th, 2022, that the manner of death, in her words, could not be determined. Is that right?
Yes.
This is where they muscled. This is where they muscled the medical examiner.
Would not rule, at least in terms of the manner of death, would not rule this a homicide. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you agree that that's obviously a pretty significant finding.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Her finding doesn't alter how we conduct our investigation, whether if it's undetermined or ruled a homicide. We're still going to continue to investigate
Excuse me.
one way, regardless of her determination.
You obviously were not pleased with that. You were not pleased with that determination, right?
It didn't matter one way or the other because, like I said, we continue on with the investigation.
On April 28th, that same day, you received a text message from Trooper DeChico, correct?
Yes.
You turn to tab 11, please.
What's the ID number?
This is 2618. I'm sorry, tab 11
Triple
is
F.
GGG, triple G is in golf.
Well, they had him on the stand for a while today.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Do you have that in front of you, Trooper Proctor?
I do, sir.
You turn to page 2618. Do you see a text message received from Trooper DeChico with a photograph of the autopsy report?
God, I wish I was sitting in court today. Damn. This would have been great.
Yes.
And that autopsy report,
Now, was TB allowed to stay in the court all day today, or was this one of the people that he had to be out? I think he was able to stay in court all day, right? Can someone confirm that? I'm curious. I'm gonna speed up a little bit here. I want to go to, let's see. Is TB there? Oh, he is in the court. Cool. That's Lally's redirect. I want to hear Jackson fire back. There's Lally again. We're going to speed up a little bit because it's getting late. Let's go back to Jackson on the recross. Let's see. Yes, he stayed the whole time. Awesome. That's good. All right, let's go to recross. And then we're going to wrap this up. It's getting late. Again, I wasn't going to play the whole 6 hours tonight, but we're getting about two hours or so, and people are starting to fall off here. All right, let's play this.
Misread in the context of those communications with your friends. As inexcusable, as unprofessional as those comments are, the information you had was that Ms. Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Yeah, you've got to watch the form, Mr. Lally. It's a stream.
Time that you made those inexcusable and unprofessional comments, what did you believe the defendant had done to Mr. O'Keefe?
I believe, based on all the physical evidence and facts, Mr. O'Keefe got out of that vehicle holding that cocktail glass he walked out of the waterfall bar with. Miss Reed pulled ahead and then backed into him, struck him with her vehicle, and then left.
Yeah, that's what
And
happened.
then came
buddy.
back 5.5 hours later, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Tell me further.
there you go.
Jackson?
Very briefly, Your Honor.
I gotta,
So
you
you
gotta
think
at some point go back. I gotta hear that. So after Jackson just thrashes him, I gotta go back and watch all that, his redirect, and then we're gonna hear the recross. I'm not gonna do that tonight, but I'll do it on my personal time. I want to hear how I want to hear how Lally was gonna explain all of that. I was gonna redirect. All right, let's play this.
think that your assessment, personal assessment,
So what do you want me to do, Brian? Just go back quickly to the end of cross and the beginning of redirect. Okay, I guess I might have missed something here. What's going on here? What did I miss?
Yes, sir.
do you see an entry from Courtney Proctor, a text?
Am I in the right spot? Everybody kind of guide me a little bit here because I didn't get to watch this all day. Do I need to speed up? Do I need to go back more?
Starting, I didn't give my.
Am I in the right spot? Proctor makes up a story. Okay, a little further. All right, a little further what? You need to go to the back to the start of cross. I played cross. Yes, it's a good spot. Speed it up. Everybody's saying speed it up a little. All right, we'll speed it up a little bit. Right about here. Let's see.
Would you agree with that?
I would say based off that language, yes.
And you admitted in your own words that the cop homeowner wasn't going to, quote, catch any shit, right?
Correct.
Because you were out to quote, make this cut and dry. Isn't that right?
The homeowner wasn't going to catch any shit because Mr. Elba had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Because you were going to make sure that the case was cut and dry. Those were your words, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
And Trooper Proctor, it would be far easier for you to pin it on the girl who's just a whack job cunt, in your words, who you hope just kills herself, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Shame on you, sir.
Objection.
All right, so jurors, disregard that. I've told you before, lawyers can't make comments. They can ask questions. And Mr. Jackson, you know better than
I
that.
understand. That's all I have.
Mr. Lally?
Thank you.
Whoa. Jackson just fed it to him. Oh. Yeah, I mean, Lally, what are you doing, bro? Just leave the courtroom. Like, what are you gonna do? Look at him. He is just like, what the fuck? That was fucking awesome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. As to
Now, when you had started with cross-examination the other day, you were asked some questions about whether or not in August of 2022, you disliked or did not like Mr. Yannetti, correct?
That's correct.
Why was that?
Well, basically, he stood up in open court and spouted lie after lie about me, called me corrupt and conflicted, dragged my name through the mud after I spent 10 plus years without a single complaint filed against me. And he had no basis and no facts of these wild accusations because there are none. This investigation was done with the utmost integrity, not just by me, but my supervisors and other troopers in my office, as well as Mr. Yannetti shows up at my sister's school yesterday in the parking lot where he's not welcomed or where people are not supposed to be, with one of their witnesses and their private investigator, and a teacher sees this, it informs Mr. Iannetti that he can't be there, and instead of saying okay and leaving, he asks, is Courtney Proctor in the building? Does she work here? She calls me to see if she was being served.
Objection. Can we approach?
Yes.
Look at Peggy O'Keefe. Wow. Let's see. So TB reports Courtney Proctor is an elementary school special education teacher in Canton. In a text message with her brother, Michael Proctor, he told her that he hopes Karen Reed kills herself. He responds to saying, I hope she does so she doesn't drag this out for this family. Someone as deranged as this should not be working with children. That's classy. All right, let's go back to recross, and then we're going to end this one. Let's see.
In regard to Lieutenant Tully in relation to those statements.
Yeah, from those statements, as Ms. Roberts was driving down Fairview, Ms. McCabe was.
Jack,
So
come
at
back.
the time that you're sending these text communications within this group chat in the later part of the evening of January 29th, 2022,
I'm gonna,
what is it that you did know in relation to your investigation with regard to Ms. Reed, the defendant, and or anyone else?
All right. So we knew the last person seen with Mr. O'Keefe alive was Miss Reed.
There's no evidence whatsoever.
Inappropriate juvenile, Mr. O'Keefe's
all right.
vehicle, some inconsistent statements that Miss Reed had provided to Sergeant Buchanan and I. Yeah.
So at the time that you made those comments, disparaging comments in regard to Ms. Reed in the context of those communications with your friends, as inexcusable, as unprofessional as those comments are,
Yeah, you go, Lally. Try to
the
explain it.
information you had was that Ms. Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Yeah, you've got to watch the form, Mr. Allen. It's a sting.
The time that you made those inexcusable and unprofessional comments, what did you believe the defendant had done to Mr. O'Keefe?
I believe, based on all the physical evidence and facts, Mr. O'Keefe got out of that vehicle holding that cocktail glass he walked out of the waterfall bar with. Miss Reed pulled ahead and then backed into him, struck him with her vehicle, and then left.
Then came back 5.5 hours later, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
I gotta watch
Jackson.
Jackson.
Very briefly, Your Honor.
Oh, Mr. Jackson, go for it.
So you
Lay
think
into him.
that your assessment, personal assessment, that Karen Reed had struck this officer with a car gave you license to call her a cunt,
Objection.
right?
We're getting Nathan now.
Based on the evidence, sir, my motions got the best of me, so it was in poor taste. Yes, it was inappropriate juvenile, but it was my motions that gotten the best of me.
And you called her a whack job. Gave you license to call her that too.
Yes,
Gave you license to say to your friends, oh, no. She's fucked, right?
that's what I wrote.
Gave you license to say that she's a retard.
Again, another disgusting comment.
Sir, you had an agenda from moment one, did you not?
Objection.
System.
Did you have an agenda?
Objection.
Same question.
Oh, it was a good one the first time. So the fact that you believe personally that your narrative was she hit him with a car, you get to talk about her leaky balloon knot, right?
Objection.
You indicated on cross-examination that you saw a video at 8:22 a.m. with some damage to Ms. Reed's right rear taillight, correct?
Yes,
8:22 before or after 5:07 a.m.?
after.
You also said that you had no idea where Kevin Albert lived, right?
Correct.
But you did say about getting his badge to him after that drunken night with him, that you just leave it in your mailbox, right?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, my mailbox.
Yeah. So he obviously knew where you lived.
Yes.
And then you said, there's no evidence whatsoever, your words, no evidence whatsoever. You talked about Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Colin Albert, no evidence whatsoever that they were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, right?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you're the one responsible for gathering the evidence, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Right?
I am one part of a greater group of detectives that gathers evidence. I'm just one part of that unit.
You're the pointy end of the spear, aren't you?
Objection.
You're the case officer, the lead detective, correct?
Yes.
Sort of like the fox guarding the hen house, isn't it?
Objection.
That's sustained, Mr. Jackson. Do you have anything else?
Thank you.
All right, Trooper, you are all set.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, jurors.
Thanks to jurors. I love it. I love that common theme of all these dirt bags that get up and put all these lies out there. Like good on Jackson. Nothing less than I would have thought how he would attack this and go after it and expose another one in this case that has lied and conjured up all of these lies for against Karen. All right, my friends, where are we at? Rogue, do you know where we're at as far as? Oh wait, I got the interview with TV. I know everybody's saying, I know. All right, let's play this.
Did not do. I couldn't control my reaction in court.
Steve, do you know what he's talking about with that picture that was going on Twitter? There's like a guy that looks like you talking to Lucky Lochran.
Aiden, that was me.
Oh, that was you.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
all right.
yeah,
So that was
yeah.
you. Okay.
And any lawyer is going to prepare a witness to testify.
Steve.
I took the off day and I went down to Canton because I wanted Lucky Lochran to go through his route with me.
Okay.
Lucky Lochran asked to meet in the Kennedy School parking lot. I had suggested meeting at the DPW. I didn't know who worked there, who went to school there. I don't know Canton. I'm not a South Shore guy. I met with Lucky Lochran with my investigator. We left the parking lot. He took me on his route. We went back to the parking lot, picked up the car, and we left. He made up a conversation out of whole cloth that somebody supposedly approached me and had a conversation with me about leaving.
Something about his
parking lot.
sister. I guess his sister works at that school. I don't know.
I have
She's like,
no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
I have no idea. But I was a firsthand witness today to perjury by the lead investigator who is framing my client. I was a firsthand witness to that today. That explains my reaction in court.
Interview.
When will Lucky be? Do you expect the Commonwealth to call Lucky, or will that just be a
I
defense
don't know
witness?
if they'll call him or not. I mean, he's on their witness list, but he will be a defense witness
Okay.
if he's not called by the Commonwealth. I promise you that.
And does his story remain the same from what we've seen in court filing?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and good for him. He lives in that community, and he will not be bullied. The truth is the truth, and I look forward to putting Brian Loughlin on the
Great.
stand.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you, David.
Good stuff. Great little interview there. All right, we're at 317 for Karen. And yes, 317 is my birthday. Good point out, Jen. Look at that. That is my birthday. 317 total, and we're going to take 25% of that, and that will be $79. I'm going to round that up to 80. So $80 will be kicked back to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. What I'll do is immediately when I get off the show, you know the routine that I do. I post it up on my LTL Media Facebook page, the receipt. I post it on my community page, and then the ultimate vetting, you can go right to the Defense Fund link, click on it, and it will say LTL Media Chat Raiser, and it will have the date 6/12/24. With that, my friends, I'm going to end the stream for tonight. I will be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Jess Machado from the Fall River Reporter. I will have Maz Media. And you know what? I'm going to reach out to Brandy and see if she could come on for a little while tomorrow. I think that will be great. But if not, we'll get her back another time. I want to thank Brandy for jumping up spontaneously, joining me for about almost, I think, over half an hour. We had that great conversation, and I'm going to try to get her back here at some point. All right, everybody, get some rest. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be here or be square. I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good night, and thank you so much for the support. Thank you all so much for the support. We'll get that money kicked up to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. All right, I'm out. Peace. Oh, where's my...